the best advice. Clean your room, stand up straight, tell the truth, right? Just build a foundation of right behavior around yourself, and it forms up like armor, because it inevitably, if you do the right things, right? If you tell the truth, if you clean up your room, if the things that are the items of the activities that you enjoy taking precedent in the space that you occupy, you're going to do those things more often. And then by virtue of doing those things more often, maybe you cultivate relationships and friendships around those activities. It's a compound thing. So what was the thread that I was going to weave in with, I don't know if you weave thread. My wife is a knitter. I don't understand thread and sewing and yarn and crochet and everything else, so I'm not going to be able to make a good metaphor. But while I think back what I was going to say about Jordan Peterson and the idea of mental illness being a fallacy, where I say it's not the case that people are broken in the sense of somebody having a broken leg, I think there's gradients to mental health, and it has to do with something that is not inextricably linked to a person's character. It is it's a transient quality of a person's behavior, and that ought to be something worthy of help, worthy of understanding, as opposed to judgment and condemnation and damnation. We're really fucking good at judgment on popular media, and I have no taste for that. I can't watch commercials or daily television for any amount of time really without just feeling disgust and distaste, and for that reason I feel like a lot of advertising, a lot of the narrative around hero worship and celebrity worship is this idea that there is a quote unquote admirable character, and not simply an admirable and understandable set of behaviors that anybody can occupy within their own character, right? Like, that's an empowering thing. The people that I find to be good people, as opposed to famous people, are guys like David Goggins. Love your message. Hey, I was a fuck up, and then I decided to not be a fuck up, and I'm not a fuck up anymore. Good for you. Jocko Willink, wonderful. I'm gonna move this camera up a little bit. Sorry, testing, 1, 2, 3. Let's see. Never done this before, so this is the first time with this camera. Let's see. I keep cutting off the top of my head. Hold on. How's that? Babe, I'm not very good at this, but it's okay. There we go. I think that's better. Can you make it so I can see the top of my head? Is that better? Okay, let me see it. But then this one is in the way. Okay, so get back to, that's good, right? All right, so getting back to Jocko Willink, another extremely inspirational individual. Gets up early, right? Does the thing that he doesn't want to do. Works out hard. I just was listening to a motivational talk about, there's no easy way. There's no hack. There's no shortcut. Doesn't get there, right? And everybody's looking for that. Was the point of the media that I was consuming. It was Jocko Willink's voice over some lo-fi, which I don't know what signifies in terms of a description of music, but some like techno music. It was really good. So David Goggins, Jocko Willink, Joe Rogan, who else would I put in that same vein? Tony Robbins. There was an individual on Tony Robbins' show that was really wonderful. I could probably list a lot more if I was more in the community of like self-help people. But I resonate with people that have done it and then are passionate to be able to give the keys to the castle to the next person. What was his name? There's an individual who's the head of, I forget, like Bridgewater Capital. In any case, he was really concerned with helping other people to understand how to, get where he has gotten and share the knowledge of the way that he's navigated the chaos of his life and how to avoid the pitfalls that he's seen people fall into. That's really important, and I think that is too seldom the case in popular culture. What I am going to start being more of a voice of is, hey, I get it. Shit's fucked up, right? Shit's hard. Relationships aren't going the way that you want them to, or aren't easy, let's say. You don't have enough money, or you don't have the amount of money that you want, or your body's not, the right shape or the right, I was going to say color, but that's kind of treading on thin ice, I guess. But you know what I'm getting at. We all have struggles that are kind of these existential, really hardcore struggles. And I think too often we see the people that we care about and the people that we look up to, the people that we aim to please, judge us based on our, throes of difficulty, of pain in dealing with these struggles. And I just want to start being a voice of my own moderate, not not like overwhelming by any stretch, but my own moderate success at dealing with my struggles. And I think that they're just as significant as anybody else's, not because I have self-pity, but because I was in a place where I was on psychiatric medication, under the care of a doctor, really having no control over the vector of my own life, other than just being, adrift in the chaos of psychological space. So, I wanted to kind of summarize my introduction to these talks by saying I will continue to put out media that supports people that feel marginalized, judged, labeled, devalued, dehumanized, and do so from a place of rational, compassionate, stoked, good energy. Because I'm not here to browbeat anybody. I'm not here to tell anybody what they're doing wrong. I'm here to just share what I have found that's given me the energy, the cheering section internally that I didn't have externally always, that has helped me to feel like I can continue to move forward. So that's kind of my call to action. Again, my hat's off to the people that are already doing this, that have been doing it for a long time. Kevin Hart was on Joe Rogan's podcast, was brilliant. Obviously just a really positive dude. That's wonderful. We need more of that. Graham Hancock, what a beautiful man. He has, obviously learned a huge amount about the archaeological history of our species, and has clearly had to fight uphill against a huge amount of derision and humiliation, or attempted humiliation by the archaeological mainstream. And I just think that the more people that we have in society that have the courage to speak their own truth, justified by their own experience, by their own evidence, and the courage to back that up. And if we're wrong, if he, she, or it is wrong, that's okay. It's not okay to be silenced by fear of judgment and retaliation and marginalization and all these things. That's what I suppose feel a call to action against. So, these guys, the gentlemen that I've already named, I'm not trying to be male centric. I just don't have any real women off the top of my head that come to mind. Although Gabby Reese was on Joe Rogan's podcast, Laird Hamilton, both of them are huge inspirations. Just the desire to genuinely be good for everybody, like not just for oneself, but to be one's best as a sign of what's possible, I think is a really important characteristic, among others. Truth, a person being honest is obviously just foundational. Hardworking, that's a real good point. But just somebody who's not possessed by vanity, but yet still strives for the best version of themselves, need find some kind of external inspiration, and I think that comes from understanding what inspiration can do. I know what it's done for me, and I would like to pass the buck. I would like to share the favor. So, what's my story? Well, I'll tell you. Was always a very smart, relatively speaking, kid. Was recognized as such by Rotary and the GATE program, which is a gifted students program in elementary school, and went and took us to space camp, or I forget, it wasn't space camp as such. It was like we got to just try the freeze dried food, and they had somebody come and talk with us. So I was always in advanced placement education. I did very well in the SATs, got a 1410 before it was out of, 2400, when it was out of 1600. Only took it once, so that wasn't like a hacking the system, I just did it. I was a National Merit Scholar, was in the California Scholarship Society, got a 4.3 in high school. So when playing the academic game, did very well. And then college came, and first of all, high school at the very end of it was a real struggle. I was getting a 4.3 GPA, and I was on attendance probation because I would show up for class late like every day, because the social anxiety that I endured from being another person in line was too great for me to be able to handle without physical repercussions. Everybody knows that stress, like, invariably can and does result in physical ailments. So somebody saying that I can't handle that amount of stress is perfectly justifiable. Whether or not the person they're around respects that, it's a different story. But I knew in my heart of hearts that the only way that I could navigate the stress that I was going through in school was to kind of go by my own rhythm, and so I just show up late, like, often. Not in any disrespectful manner, just so I could, like, not have the fucking spotlight, or seemingly have the spotlight on me, which is ironic because now I'm fucking looking into a spotlight. But anyway, I was on attendance probation. They were telling me, the administration, the fucking, do what we say because we do what they say people, right? Which I can't stand to be around systemic automaton type thinkers, because you question them and it, like, doesn't compute, right? Like, there's no internal doubt there. It's all just, we know the rules, it's like, oh fuck, like, don't say I broke any of them, So they were telling me that if I was late, a certain amount of times again, or if I had missed any classes, I would be, like, barred. I would be, like, expelled, or I don't know if that's the case, but there was going to be repercussions. But I had over a 4.0 GPA, and I was playing sports. I swam, and I played water polo. So it was this weird thing, right, where I was, like, breaking the rules, but I was doing better than, like, 95% of the students. So that's kind of been a rule in my life, as opposed to the the exception. I kind of find that I do my own thing, but and break some rules that some people seemingly aren't comfortable breaking, but accomplish things at a high level. So anyway, I go to college. Interestingly, I got karmic kicked in the ass because I had missed this is the way that I've made sense of it, what do you call it when everybody meets in the auditorium? An assembly that, or at least that was one place where the information was disseminated about the SAT 2s. So when I was going to school, I graduated high school in 2004. There was not only the SAT, but there were SAT 2s, which were subject specific that we needed to take. And I didn't go to that assembly. I don't think. It was like, my mom was not doing very well at that time in my life. She was still reeling from my parents' divorce that had happened several years prior. When I say it wasn't doing well, I mean that she was in such a acute depression that she would be in bed, not like sleeping a lot of hours, like in bed all day for several days at a time. Like she'd come out to eat and go to the bathroom and go back to bed. So that was my home life. And so getting up and being like Mr. Self-Motivated was not the fucking go. It was just like make sure that the home situation was okay. Like that was the main concern on a day-to-day basis. So showing up late to school was just a luxury that I took advantage of. Like I didn't give a fuck. So I knew I could pass the tests. I knew I could teach myself the academic rote memorization tasks, but I had to be there just to deal with the fucking ups and downs of a person in my house, of which were only two, me and her, going through a real mental low. So in any case, I did not take my SAT 2 writing. And when I found out about that, at which point I'm a senior in high school, applied to UCLA, UC Berkeley, UC San Diego, and I'm like, I'm gonna get into Berkeley, I'm gonna get into LA, but I'll apply to just the rest of the UC schools as a whatever. Well, when I found out about the SAT 2 writing, and I love to write, I'm very verbal. I went to my counselor, and I says to them, hey, I had no idea about the SAT 2 writing. I've only applied to my UC schools. I have a very good, resume. Isn't that funny that you have to apply like a fucking job to a university that's going to take fucking probably close to $100,000 of your money, for your time, or you could buy the courses online for just about free. But in any case, my resume was very good, and the counselor goes, "Oh yeah, we don't offer those anymore, sorry." I was like, "What do you mean, sorry?" It's like, "Yeah, all your UC applications are he or she, I don't remember, will be thrown out, so none of those are valid." So I'm a senior in high school. All I've done is apply to these colleges, these specific colleges that are in my state. And I went to high school in California. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like my whole plan had just taken a turn. I still remember I went to my car and I hit the rear view mirror with just all that tense, angry energy of just the system fucking me, And I had nobody to blame but myself. I had no recourse. There was no appeals process that I was aware of, so I was fucked. So I broke the rear view mirror off my car without even trying. Just boom, and it broke off. Fuck. That was a cool car too. 1985 325i BMW. It was my parents' car, and they let me drive it because I learned to drive stick. My brother had the opportunity to have it, but he didn't learn to drive stick. So I was like, oh, fuck yeah. So I just resolved to apply to Pac-10 schools. I knew I'd get in, so I ended up going to University of Oregon for a year. Got so depressed in the rainforest. I'm a California kid. I need the sun, fucking dropped out. Just partied. Just didn't give a fuck. Just smoked a bunch of weed. I just kind of had discovered weed in my freshman year of college. I think I smoked the first time ever, like in between junior and senior year, summertime. Never smoked before school until I think the last day of my senior year, and I was so scared, like worried that I was, oh no, they're gonna know, And then in college at University of Oregon, I really enjoyed myself. I partied, and by the second or third term, I knew that I wasn't going to continue at University of Oregon. First of all, I was paying out of state tuition, so it was like, a lot of money. I think that the year came out to $30,000 or $35,000, of which my father paid, God bless him, but he made darn sure that I understood that, he was not happy about it, and kind of made me watch him write the check, and it was a weird thing. But something funny happened. When I knew that I was going to drop out of University of Oregon, it was the end of the winter term, and so I still had spring term.